This June, me and my team headed back to New Hampshire to visit PorcFest, an annual festival for libertarians, free staters, and pretty much anyone who wants to live their life free on their own terms. It's an amazing event filled with all sorts of interesting people. This is one of the conversations I had there. Welcome to Kibbe on Liberty. Lou, what's going on?
Kibbe, it's great to see you in New Hampshire, man.
Yeah, we've been going back and forth trying to find a time to do this, and here we are in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Didn't see that coming.
No, we are at PorcFest.
Yeah.
Right now, the Porcupine Festival, Free State Project.
How many times have you done this? Are you a newbie?
Relatively, because I've done like Liberty Forum a bunch in Manchester, but I've only been to PorcFest once, and that was, I say, maybe 10 years ago, 10 or 12 years ago. It was my first time there, and I'm good friends with Carla Garrick, and Carla, had played such a pivotal role in the Free State Project and we went to school together, graduate school, and she invited me up, and it was kind of like my early days of libertarianism and all that. And I got this idea. I was like, while I'm here, I'll like interview people and maybe I could write about it. So I was walking around with a notepad, and people were like, who the hell is this guy taking notes, talking to us and all that? So
fed.
Totally
fed.
Total fed.
Yeah.
And which sucks because, you would think like the feds would reach out, right. but they're just not interested.
You have notes.
Yeah, I have so many notes.
They might be interested.
Yeah, people were trading, trading. There was agorism. That was the first time I'd ever, heard about that. But yeah, about 12 years later, I'm back.
They were trading other things too.
Oh yeah, I think bodies.
Yeah.
I've yet to meet the crypto sexual currency. That's sort of
well, it's here.
It's here. It's somewhere.
But that section is back because the kids really shouldn't be exposed to that.
Right. There's for those of you who haven't been here, you also might be surprised by the amount of nude activities that are happening here right now.
Did you compete in the nude Olympics?
I blew my test, so I had PEDs, performance enhancing drugs. So I was not able to compete. And it's unfortunate because I think I would have brought home a lot of gold for my country, my people.
And you were asking earlier, I have to ask this question. At the Nude Olympics, do you have trans people sort of crossing over into the female competition?
Yeah, it's obviously a concern that you have to have, right? With everything that's going on. I guess it's a lot. I would imagine, like, say, if you're like a trans runner, and I don't know like what all the different competitions were. If you're a trans runner, if you're not able to, hold your stuff up, that's actually going to get in the way. So whatever, you might have had an edge, about being born male, but now when your, dick and balls are flopping around, that's just getting in the way. Are there any athletes in the audience who could attest to that? I don't know. I haven't run. You walked by it?
Yeah.
No women involved in it.
So don't worry.
It's all dudes. Yeah. But by the way, you might have solved perhaps one of the most controversial social debates of our time, where the people that want to be tolerant and people that want to let people be whoever they are still uncomfortable with the idea that former men who transition to female. I don't know if I just got our show banned just by saying that. I don't even know what the rules are.
It's definitely demonetized. I don't know how much money you make in Google ads, but yeah, they just all went away right now.
Well, that we should we go on? Let's
sure.
do it anyway.
Well, one of the things I've been listening, in on that debate, and something that surprised me was a lot of people who transition, they don't get, I guess, bottom surgery. They don't go in for that, and I guess partly because of the risks being so high. Like, while there's been so many advancements in medical science, like, still in that area, there's a lot more work to be done.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that.
Yeah. But all sort of like goofing around aside, what's your observation of PorcFest 10 years ago? And I feel I don't know exactly when I first came here, but it was probably not a dissimilar time. I think I've been here 6 or 7 times. We'd have to consult the archives to see how true that is.
And the Oracle.
Yeah.
The Porkfest
But
Oracle.
I remember a day when Porkfest was really a lot of extremely well-armed hippies that were just hanging out, quoting Murray Rothbard. And by the way, I'm saying this with
Love.
almost emotion and love, because I'm like, these are my people. As the intellectual bastard child of Jerry Garcia and Ayn Rand, I finally had a home. But this year, there's a lot of families, and there's a lot of true diversity, the kind of diversity that I would celebrate, meaning that have everything on the spectrum from the nude Olympics, and maybe those nude Olympians are on acid. Let's speculate that. Whereas other folks are doing Bible groups and family gatherings and everything in between, and yet nobody fights, nobody hurts each other. There's something magical, I think, here.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that, and the family thing is really interesting. Hey, I got a shout out on the.
Did you pay her? Did you pay her to whoop?
I did. That was some sexual crypto that I gave. Yeah. No, I mean I've definitely noticed the growth of families here, and I think ultimately you're sort of like, well, that's what's going to happen, right? If you're say a young person in your 20s, you first come to Porkfest. 10 years later, you're probably going to be looking to start a family, and I've started a family since then. It's my wife. We have two boys, and so much of, I guess, our philosophy of raising them has been shaped by the ideas of the people who come here. And it could be tough too. I think one of the things that we're, at least I'm struggling with, is how do I discipline my children without resorting to smacks or spankings and all that. Because the idea of like peaceful parenting and stuff, that's something that I learned here, and so it's definitely an interesting.
Is there an app
time
for that? Like, is there a sort of a blockchain solution to not having to smack your kids?
Right. Yeah. I had this like observation because I grew up and it's not like I was beaten, but I remember getting slapped and stuff. And now being a parent and just having so much pressure on me in the world and so much stress, I sort of figured it out. It's like, some parents will hit their children because it's like the one fight they know they could win. Like they can't hit their boss, because that's going to go sideways. They can't, go out to a bar and just get into a fight with a random guy because, they're approaching middle age. Maybe they don't know how to fight. But here you have this little piece of you that you can somehow metaphorically, slap into shape and all that. So,
the problem with that is particularly under free market capitalism, kids get tremendous nutrition and they grow up to be a lot larger than you are. Yeah. So there's probably payback's a bitch.
Well, I have that in my contract with my parents, where it's like, 30 years from now, 30 years from then, it's like, we're going to have that rematch. Yeah. So my mom is like 75 and she doesn't know any grappling whatsoever.
You're feeling good about this.
I'm feeling really good about this. I don't know how my grandkid, her grandkids will feel, because then they're like, look, man, get your hands off grandma.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely demonetized now. But so let's so we both love Porkfest, and we're here sort of sweating it out in the sun because
literally, like you did not
because my camera guys are like, it's going to look better if you guys sit out in the sun.
Like, is there any way you can get so hot and sweaty you guys just take your clothes off and we just do like
nude
podcasting, free the people, like literally free them from the constraints of clothing.
Yeah. I don't know how my partner Blaze TV would feel about that, but maybe I don't know.
Now I just want to see Glenn Beck. I just want to see some bare-chested Glenn Beck just going wild.
Oh, that's okay. We're going to change subjects. Like we're going to do a hard right turn here or a hard left turn or something. But you have a new book coming out.
I do. Did you
see that transition was beautiful? Yeah.
At any point, you can just be like, "So we have a new book." Yeah, it's actually my debut book, and I got I have a
propaganda
card.
there.
Yeah, a little postcard. It's called "That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore" on the death and rebirth of comedy, and and I got some pretty good reviews so far. Peter Boghossian, co-author of How to Have Impossible Conversations, he describes it. He says, "Reading That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore is like drinking a cocktail from the safety of an orbital." I just messed it up. Sorry. It's like drinking a cocktail from the safety of an orbital space station while watching the burning terrain below. It offers solace and perspective while witnessing the madness that's destroying society.
He uses big words.
Yeah, that's a big one to live up to. I really hope that the words in my book live up to that one.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we talked about this. I forget the last time you were on the show. It's been a while.
Yeah.
And sort of the woke cancel culture screwing up comedy was still a relatively new thing, and you had guys like Jerry Seinfeld saying, "I'm not going to do college campuses." But it's gotten, I take it from your book, and by the way, I love interviewing you before your book is released, so I don't have to pretend that I read your book and look like I know what you said, right. But we'll explore it here. But the question is whether or not woke culture has killed comedy, and I take it from your title that, or at least the blurb, that you're like, yeah, it killed it, but it's also the opportunity for it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. I guess it's sort of an example of maybe not a perfect example of like creative destruction. Where basically
it needed to be broken.
Yeah, and I think while people might say, oh, comedy's dead, it's like, ironically, it's like the best time possible to be doing comedy, because there's just so much lined up for people who are looking to get an audience. For one, we have the technology where if you're a comedian, you're no longer on this one path to success. It used to be like, oh, you do stand up, and hey, maybe get to a point where you don't want to do the road anymore, but hey, now you have a sitcom. And then maybe now you have movies. That's a direction. And now with the way things are, and things being so cheap to be able to shoot and to stream and all that, you have all these opportunities for revenue streams and also a way to build your audience. So I think that, like, on its own is just an incredible opportunity. And then, there's a natural, sort of thing about comedy where you take on sacred cows, and it's like, naturally, whatever the new sacred cows are, whatever's being propped up, that's material.
Yeah.
And if you have people, in positions of, sort of establishment players who aren't going to take on certain subject matter, or they're going to be like, oh, we're making new rules as far as what you're allowed to talk about. Well, that just opens up, so many opportunities for people to hammer at it.
Well, I wonder, like, I get that, and that I've talked for years about sort of the democratization of media, and it allows, and I think about it in the context of music, it allows a lot of artists that would have never gotten oxygen in the old go meet the guy smoking a cigarette and get the music contract, and now they can just publish their stuff. But I wonder if there's a two-tiered system. I just watched the Ricky Gervais special. Netflix, I guess.
Yeah, Superhuman. I haven't watched it yet.
And I wonder, and I see Bill Maher sort of being more and more critical of woke culture and the speech police, and just doing some fantastic stuff. But is there a two-tiered system where, if you're Ricky Gervais, he's already got, as I understand it, 2 more contracts from Netflix, and that show is crazy. Like that show, if he was just a guy, he would have been canceled and perhaps murdered by the woke mob, but he's big and he generates revenue. Is it a two-tiered system, or is that the Wild West for everybody? You don't have to have like a huge brand to break in, or do you get demonetized? We were joking about it earlier, but will you get canceled, demonetized? Will they take away your PayPal account, and God knows what they do now? Yeah.
Well, I think it's sort of sort of being in a position where if you're undeniable, things are going to go well for you, I think. And there's, I'm definitely not on a Ricky Gervais level, but we'll see how this goes.
Yeah. Thank you for joining me today on Kibbe on Liberty, and for being part of our fiercely independent audience. Every week, my organization, Free the People, partners with Blaze TV to bring you this show. My guests bring smart perspectives on everything from current events to timeless philosophical debates. If you like what you hear, go to freethepeople.org/KOL and support Kibbe on Liberty so we can continue to produce these honest conversations with interesting people. Now, let's get back to it.
How this goes. Glenn, the Blaze, come on, dude, hook it up.
Yeah.
But I mean, one of the things that I've noticed is sort of like if you're able to, get 10,000 fans of yours who really enjoy your stuff and love what you're doing and are willing to, throw you $5 a month.
Yeah.
My God, that's a really good living.
Yeah.
Doing what you're doing. You don't have to be on that, the pantheon of comedians. You don't have to be Dave Chappelle. You don't have to be Ricky Gervais or even Bill Maher. You can still, survive and thrive by cultivating that fan base. So I think that's something that's definitely very positive on that.
Yeah. Do you know the rapper Zuby? Do you follow him? So he's a great example of what you're describing. He's a musician, but he has used social media, particularly Twitter, to build a very loyal fan base, and he seems to be thriving in that culture. Mm-hmm. Of course, if they take away his Twitter account, that hurts, and you have to keep sort of pivoting to a safer place to speak freely, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's something I'd like to hear what you think about it. For a very long time, I've always been like, well, private company, they could do what they want. But then what got me, sort of, I don't know, a little unsure is just the idea of if you're a private company and you're silencing voices that the government is really happy that you're silencing.
Yeah.
Ooh, that
right.
That becomes a little, very scary.
Yeah.
When I guess what the prime example would be something like Parler, where it's like, really all of these all these platforms are coming against it, or other figures like that.
Yeah, there is it. I have a lot of thoughts on this because I've been sort of that wild, optimistic, romantic view that technology and social media was gonna liberate all of these minority voices to come into the conversation, and I think this latest I'll call it a collusion. It's definitely a partnership between government and these big tech companies, and part of it's financial. Mm-hmm. Part of it is, and let's take vaccine information as an example.
Definitely demonetized right now.
Yeah. Well, I just said vaccine information. I didn't express an opinion on that yet.
Right.
But it's not hard to notice that between actual government agencies advertising on social media platforms and pharmaceutical companies advertising on social media platforms, that has to be like a pretty substantial, if not dominant, revenue stream for these guys. And couple that with Joe Biden's press secretary, whose name escapes me now.
Oh, Psaki?
Psaki. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think about the drink. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love sake.
There you go.
Well, not Jen Psaki. She came out and basically said, we would really love for these companies who we have a lot of power over to do better silencing our critics. Mm. And then a couple days later, in a very Joe Biden way, Joe Biden said Facebook is literally killing people. And then fast forward to the Surgeon General, maybe 6 months later, developing a hotline where you could rat out anybody that questioned the government's position on these health issues. That's not a private company anymore. That's at least a politically captured company that's afraid of being regulated out of existence. But maybe I think it's more of an ecosystem where they feed off of each other, and they would love, Facebook would love for the government to write some rules that would make it very difficult for the next Facebook to come along and put them out of business. So I don't buy this. I think it's a lazy libertarian argument when they say, "Oh, it's a private company; they can do what they want."
Mm.
Well, is it?
Right. And also, I mean, the realities too, like there are many people who work for these companies, or are, in high positions of power at these companies, who agree 100% with what, the administration is pushing, and would love to do nothing more than to help the administration push what they're pushing. So yeah, it's a tough time to be a principled person when the principles are getting you fucked in a way.
I don't think that's true. I'm going to be an optimist, and I've not been particularly optimistic the last 2 years because I'm suspecting that I would get this from reading your book. What's it called again?
That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore, on the Death and Rebirth of Comedy. And I'm going to agree with anything you say because I feel like there's so much hot light on me that I'm just going to rat out everybody right now. There's light coming there. There's light coming here. I'm just like, oh, God.
And your advice is everyone should buy your book, but don't ever buy it on Amazon because they canceled Parler.
Oh my God. No. I think that if you buy it on Amazon, enough of them, they might be like, yeah, Parler's great.
Yeah.
So wherever you can get my
buy
book.
multiple copies on Amazon.
Yeah, multiple copies. The audio version, which I'll be recording at some point.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah.
So I was going to say something optimistic. I think the revolution is these disparate voices that have been canceled, and when you see, Dave Chappelle get tackled on stage, or you see Bill Maher, totally like he's he would have been the darling of the far left just a couple years ago, and he spends most of his time now criticizing his own audience. That's pretty ballsy for him, I think. Yeah. But they've gone too far, so the revolution now is shifting to guys like Rogan and 1,000, if not hundreds of thousands of baby Rogans just out there saying, you know what, we're going to say what we want. We're going to have these conversations, and it's going to be a little more intellectually honest. So I'm thinking that we're at the point where particularly libertarians have this opportunity to reach people outside of these old bubbles. But right now it seems like a hellscape. Mm. But that's where good things come from.
Well, I think there's the attitude of, hey, you know what, I disagree with you, or I didn't like what you said, but I'm going to move on. I'm definitely not going to write to your boss and saying that you should be fired or that you should lose your livelihood. I think that resonates with a lot of people. Yeah. And I think you could think we're crazy for the stuff that we believe in, but you know what, we're not going to try to tear you down. Yeah. I'm going to try to tear you down as a human being, or and I think that goes a long way. So I think that there is something to be optimistic about, staying true to your beliefs, staying true to your philosophy, and opening it up and saying, hey, there's room here.
Yeah, I also think I feel like the woke mob and their secret leaders who gather secretly in their secret lair, they know what they're doing when they go after comedians first, and they go after anybody that deviates in the creative artistic world. And we talked about this last time. I've been still trying to develop this theory. I think civil society falls apart without comedians, because you guys are the guys that get up on stage and say uncomfortable things and tell uncomfortable jokes about the differences that we all have. It could be ethnic, it could be religious, it could be all the stereotypes of all of us, and you guys allow for people to start to work that stuff out without hurting each other. And I think if you take that away, then the alternative is for people to become more tribal and less willing to engage people that are different than them, just assuming some unfair stereotype about those guys over there. Mm-hmm. And yes, I'm pointing at the Nude Olympics camp.
What event are they on right now? Pole vault? So,
yeah.
Well, I think for me,
are there any nude Olympians in the audience?
Anybody? Any winners? We only want winners. We don't want any bronze medalists. Okay,
yeah,
take your bullshit out of here. We just want gold here. Well, with the Nude Olympics, it's like does it come down to like if someone has a huge hog, like you just have to give them the gold? It's like, I don't know. Maybe that's how I play. But like with, something it was a great opportunity to write the book because I got to look back on like 20 years of comedy. When I first started out, it was very experimental and like, hey, I'd love to try improv. I'd love to try, sketch comedy. I'd love to try stand up and just see what happens. And while I was trying that, I was trying it in an environment where whether you were first starting out or you were there for 5 years or a 10-year veteran, the idea was you were going to try stuff. You were going to see what works and what doesn't work. And it was an incredibly, freeing and liberating experience, to be there. I think ultimately it came down to like the simplest aspect, which was making people laugh. And I feel like the discussion of comedy, especially over, say, like the past 5 to 7 years, it's been so intellectualized and it's been so politicized as well. And people have sort of forgotten that. There's something about going, turning on, picking up your phone, watching a video, cracking up, or going to a club and having a few beers and cracking up. There's something that's just so elemental and so important about that I really wish that I really want us to get back to that. Because I think that, even before like, the whole idea of like comedians speaking truth to power and all that, it's like, no, hold on. Are you laughing?
Yeah.
Are you able to laugh? And the big thing is like, when I see some of these critics, these woke critics, I'm like, have you ever laughed in your life? Is there any joy in your life? Like the idea that you confront every single thing from a political stance, I remember, what was her? Her name's Lily, I believe. My apologies for not remembering her name, but she's running for office. She's from China.
Lily Tang Williams.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. She's fantastic. She did a. Have you had her on?
Yeah, yes. Just recently.
Yeah, definitely check out interviews with her. The story she tells is so incredible. But one of the things that she talks about is how, in Maoist China, everything about your being needs to be about these tenets of communism. Every single thing, no matter what you do, if you're singing a song, the way you dress and all that, it's completely devoid of individualism, right? And I've seen that, in the way that people respond to comedy, especially on the woke side of it, where it's how can you make that joke because that is, politically incorrect. How can you hold these views? How can you, have a platform where you allow these views, to go out? It's like, hold on a second. Wow, you're really trying to tear down the individual here, and just recreate man in your politicized image.
Yeah, it's torture to watch Stephen Colbert anymore.
Yeah.
I'm old enough to remember when he was funny.
He was hilarious,
and it's been a long time too.
Yeah,
and it's because everything. I don't know if he's sort of bowing to the mob or if he is one of those secret people behind closed doors that are dictating what the woke mob does. I don't know, but it's not comedy. It's something else. It's indoctrination or something.
Yeah, the times that I've tuned in, or it's mostly comes through clips, I'm just like, what? I don't understand. I don't know what I don't know what's going on here. Yeah.
So how did you you went to graduate school with Carla?
Oh wow, look at this! I got a little bug.
Yeah,
it's a green guy.
It's part of.
Is this a tick? Oh man, if I come away from PorkFest with Lyme's disease, that's gonna be a bummer. I don't care if I win the Nude Olympics.
I think you signed a thing that said you wouldn't sue.
Oh my God, how weak am I and drunk because Matt gave me. It's a Pilsner, but I don't know what else is in it. I can't even blow this little bug off. I would be the worst member of a militia. Like this dude is so weak he can't even blow a bug off. There we go. I just flicked that off.
If you made it this far into the show, it means I must be doing something right. Kibbe on Liberty is just one of the amazing products we created for the people. We tell emotionally compelling stories and produce educational videos for the liberty curious. Our award-winning documentaries personalize all things liberty, independence, creativity, hard work, integrity, and perseverance. After the show, check out our work at freethepeople.org. And if you like what you see, donate to support what we do. That's freethepeople.org. Now back to the show.
Sorry, Matt.
Is that part of the indoctrination of joining a militia? Did you try?
I'm wondering. I tried. They're like, yeah, man, you don't even own a gun.
Yeah,
dude.
you're a pussy.
Like, yeah. It's like, oh yeah, we could use you as bait or something like that, So,
I think I have a gotcha question. You went to graduate school with Carla. She's a lawyer, isn't she?
Yeah. Oh no, but
Are
I went.
You a lawyer?
No. I went with for a fake degree.
Okay.
I got an MFA, Master of Fine Arts, in creative writing. So that's how I met Carla.
You have a master's in fine arts writing.
Creative writing. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
How'd that work out?
How did it work out? Well, I wrote a book. So funny you should say. I have a book coming out. It's called That Joke Isn't Fun Anymore, on the death and rebirth of comedy. It's so sad that there are people who I went to school with who don't write anymore. And it's like, well, I hope you had fun, Yeah.
Yeah. Writing is a dying art, and I still like to write, but it's difficult in my old age because I fall asleep.
You fall asleep doing your own writing? Well, when do you choose that? I mean, you start drinking beer pretty early.
It's probably maybe there's a link.
I mean,
between
I'm not
these
saying
two
you're
things.
Hunter S. Thompson, but he, at least he had some uppers in there.
Yeah.
He wasn't just drinking, delicious IPAs all day.
Do you describe in your book why and when you decided I'm going to try comedy? Was it in school? Like,
yeah. Well, I don't know if I talked about it specifically, but I remember I think it was at some point. I think it was kind of like a post 9/11 thing. Where it's like, you know what, I want to try comedy. I want to try improv. I don't want to sound like a hero, but, while other people were going over to fight Al Qaeda, I was like, you know what, I could do some scenes where I make fun of Al Qaeda. And that will,
that's probably what tipped it.
And so cheap, too. So much cheaper than actually going over there and spending billions of dollars. But yeah, I had always liked comedy. I was always like a class clown that got good grades, so like my teachers were kind of okay with me messing around. And then eventually I, got the nerve to do it. That's why when anyone asks me like, oh, I've always wanted to try comedy, I'm like, just do it. That's what you have to do. Just give it a shot. See what happens.
And I assume part of that process is having the moral fortitude to suck. Like,
oh, man.
Have you ever had like just awful nights where not a single person
I love that.
once?
I love that Matt brings this up today, when in about 2 hours I'm going to be performing live on stage, and I'm so rusty. And it's funny you bring this up because Matt.
And by the way, it'll be a packed house, and these guys are tough.
These guys are really tough. They're armed.
Yeah, they're super well armed.
I mean, it's weird like performing, and it's like everyone is open carrying, and they're not cops, and that's a little crazy. Oh, it's funny as you bring up like not doing well, and I've definitely bombed. I actually bombed at an event where Matt was there. I think it was like SFL. He probably remembers it. He's probably like has it written down. Like, yeah, this asshole thinks he can get up there for a half hour and make people laugh. And but I remember I kind of felt bad because beforehand you're like, yeah, I'm gonna come catch your set, and then the set didn't do well, and then I think I saw you afterwards, and you're like, tough set. He was very honest with me, but at that time, I didn't need Matt Kibbe to be honest with me. I needed him to just talk about anything else. Perhaps say, hey, you should write a book in a few years. And that book is called That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore, on the death and rebirth of comedy. I needed that segue at that time, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, bombing is a really tough thing because it tears you apart, tears your soul apart.
Yeah.
And there aren't a lot of people who are willing to do that, to put up with that. And it's tough. It can be tough.
So what are the odds tonight that you do well?
Oh my God. You guys taking bets? Let's see. I
mean, you feel good. You said you're rusty.
Yeah, I mean, I feel.
I'm getting you a little bit liquored up. I don't know if that's a plus or a minus.
It's probably a minus because, like I said, this is way too strong. I haven't eaten really all day.
Yeah.
What are my chances? I think I look at comedy the same way that the attendees at Pork Fest look at the Naked Olympics. I think that all the training, all that means nothing until you get out there. you pull down your drawers, and you just let it hang out. You just go for it. So I'm gonna look at it like that. This is my Naked Olympics.
Yeah.
Going up tonight, doing some stand up, and hopefully maybe between now and then, people will give me better chemicals to put in my body that will make it, or it's probably better that everybody else is chemically, I don't want to say castrated, chemically infused, so that I'm much funnier in person.
I mean, there's probably going to be some weed, so I don't know if that makes for a good audience or not.
Right. Oh, well, it's funny because I used to live in Los Angeles, and there was a place where I did stand up once, and everybody in there, nobody was drinking. Everybody was just smoking weed, and the stage was elevated maybe like 2 feet, and it was like stage and then just smoke cloud. Just all around.
You couldn't even see people.
Yeah, couldn't even see people. You'd have to like go under the atmosphere, to see people, and it tripped me up so bad because they were laughing at my setups. They weren't even laughing at like punchlines, and I'm like, whoa, this is a whole different rhythm that they're operating on. None of them remember that show. I remember that show. But.
So I have an idea. I got my whole crew here, and I think we should go down to Lou's set, and when he tells his best joke and it gets dead silence, we should tack that on to the end of this interview.
Oh my God, that would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of like who was that? John Cage, who has like that track. It's just like 3 minutes and some odd seconds of silence.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that would be so painful. That would be so painful. One of my goals is to actually have footage of me floating around on the internet doing stand-up where I'm doing it well. There's so much just garbage. It's just like, well, this guy sucks. Like, he's a mumbling, bumbling fool.
Is that what your fans do? They just post the bad stuff?
Oh my God. Well, I start to wonder if they're really my fans. No, man, I saw you when you were first starting out. I've been doing this for 10 years, man. This is me 10 years deep in this. This isn't... So
tell me about the book.
Which book? Just any book?
The new book. The new
that
book.
Joke isn't funny anymore. On the death and rebirth of comedy. For those of you out there who are libertarians and also Smiths fans, you may recognize the cover that I'm paying homage to. It's for the Meat is Murder cover of the Smiths, the album, and then I have me there with my bearded mug, and it says "Comedy is Murder" on my helmet. So no one's really impressed. I got a few nods there.
Yeah, it's a fairly obtuse reference.
Yeah, they're like, I know you're more of a Grateful Dead guy. So you're like, I don't know, if you're not jamming for 45 minutes straight, that's not music.
But think about the total population of Smith fans, libertarians, nudists, I guess we've added to the mix, who love comedy. Mm-hmm. I mean, you'll sell dozens of books.
Dozens.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm just picturing Glenn Beck doing a Venn diagram where he's like,
it's going to be on the chalkboard. Totally, yeah.
I will sell dozens of books, dozens.
What are some of the other themes in the book that I haven't read yet? Yeah,
some of the themes of the book. Let's see. I take on identity politics. One of the things that people out there might not know is my name is Lou Perez. That's what I go by, but my full name is Luis Amate Perez. So I'm Latino. I think one of your camera guys is. Are you Latin? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm Hispanic.
You're Hispanic from where?
Texas.
Texas. He's Hispanic from Texas. That's right. I'm Hispanic from New York. So you're way more Hispanic than I am. And something that I realized with in recent years, it's been like such a emphasis on your identity, mm-hmm. where you come from, immutable characteristics, shit you can't change. Like, it's just, you have no control over that. And what I realized is when I was much younger, I really was into being Latino. Like, that was my thing. Like, I used to tell people, no, it's not Lou, it's Luis. Especially chicks I was trying to go with because it sounds sexier. And my dad being an immigrant, I was really I was really all about his story. In a way, I sort of appropriated my dad's immigrant story as my own. It's like I grew up. I tell a joke like my dad taught me the value of hard work. That's why I'm trying to live off of his hard work for as long as I can. He's talking about retiring, but I'm like, no, Padre, you keep working. I don't care if you're in your 70s. But so much of my identity was wrapped up in this name, Luis Amate Perez, and Latino and all that. And then what I found was as I got older and I actually started to accomplish things, I was like, oh, wait a minute. That stuff doesn't really mean shit. What matters is what am I doing? What am I producing? I'm a comedian. And for looking back, it's like, oh, wow, throughout this whole time, like the most important steps I ever made, not only career-wise, but also personal, was centered around comedy. Comedy has been my identity. That's really shaped the way that I see the world and I interact with the world. And so that's something that I push back against. And for the book, I went ahead and did a 23andMe. Anybody out here, have you guys done a 23andMe? Just to find out how Texas you are? Like that? No, and that was fun because I found out I'm 4.8% indigenous, right? Which, I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, you guys are on stolen land right now.
Yeah, that's your ticket, by the way.
That's my ticket.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, would it be cool if I leaned into that? If I start wearing a headdress and selling dream catchers? The thing about dream catchers is none of them work. It doesn't matter who made them, whether it's an indigenous person or a white guy. So,
at Kibbe on Liberty, freedom is a lifestyle 24/7, something you live and breathe and wear every day. If that describes you, you need the very best Liberty swag in the market today, just like this shirt I happen to be wearing. Go to freethepeople.org/KOL and check out our exciting merch. You too can love liberty and look cool. So
that book.
Well, actually, tell us where we can buy your book.
Yeah. It's so funny you bring that up because you can buy That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore on the Death and Rebirth of Comedy. You can buy it at Amazon, or you can buy it on Barnes & Noble, or you can go to simonandschuster.com and put in That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore. And there's all different ways you could buy it, from indie bookstores and all of that.
And I'm sure we're going to publish this before the book is released. It's released on September something.
September 5th or 6th, never forget. That's when it'll be released.
That's when Loose Book is released.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this before, but for people wondering when to buy, in order to rocket your book to the number one on the charts, it's better to buy early and maybe often if that's the thing you want to do. But to start with a good number on release day will help you achieve your sort of you'll make the book charts, and then the bookstores will pick it up. So it actually does matter that people do this.
Yeah, I mean that would be amazing, just gaming the system where a libertarian Smiths fan somehow has a best-selling book. That would be
and you could micro-target that audience.
Yeah, although I think most Smiths fans do not want to read my book.
Yeah,
they're like, yeah,
I suspect that's true.
Yeah, one guy, because I posted the cover, and the guy said Morrissey is rolling in his grave, and I had to alert the guy. I say, Morrissey's not dead. Sorry that you're finding that out this way. But
anything else you want people to check out? Like you have a website or stuff like that?
Yeah, you can check out thelouperez.com and sign up for my newsletter. I'm looking to do more stand-up comedy, and I'm going to be going on tour with the book. Well, actually, I'm going to hold off on doing more stand-up comedy. I'm going to see how tonight goes with Matt Kibbe and the other Free the People guys just recording silence.
Are you guys going to be at Lou's thing tonight? Anybody going, or you got better things to do? Yeah. There's one guy's debating it, but
yeah, it's that was the guy who came in second during the Nude Olympics. He's like, I'm debating. I should be training for next year. I want to get that gold.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Matt. I don't know if I can get out of this chair because this just rocked me.
Thanks for watching. If you liked the conversation, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and also ring the bell for notifications. And if you want to know more about Free the People, go to freethepeople.org.